So as we saw in the last video, the San Francisco Giants lose in the NLDS to the San Diego Padres yet again. Last season, they went on to win the National League pennant and then lose to the Red Sox. This year, they win the National League pennant again, but this time they take on the Red Sox and they beat them. Rematch of the 2023 World Series, and the Padres come out on top with a 4-1 series win. That is the first World Series win in San Diego Padres franchise history. Manny Machado got World Series MVP and National League postseason MVP. He hit .545 with 3 home runs in the World Series, and then he hit .446 in the postseason as a whole, while Michael Chavis was the AL postseason MVP for the second year in a row. They definitely picked the best year to win it, because a very good chunk of their lineup are all set to be free agents. They definitely have comparable depth to our organization, but they are going to be losing out on a lot of their players, and definitely a lot more of their lineup is going to be lost than our lineup. For us, it's more of our pitching. For them, it's a combination of pitching and their lineup. But let's actually move into the off-season portion of this video, of course starting things off with the retirements. Not any big-name retirements this year from people who were actually on teams, but there were plenty of people who were sitting in free agency for at least a year who retired. First one being former Giant Madison Bumgarner, a Giants legend, a career 3.14 ERA, 2,503 strikeouts, and he's calling it a career. Brandon Beachy, another former Giant, also retired. He was a serviceable player for the last 2 years of his career in 2022 and 2023 with Boston. He even got a World Series ring last season in 2023. Another former Giants in Robbie Grossman is calling it quits after spending 3 entire seasons in free agency. No one gave him a shot after we let him go. The OBP god has called it quits to his career, as well as Justin Turner. Nobody gave him a shot after we let him go. He spent 2 years in free agency, and now he's retiring as well. Jose Martinez won the National League batting title in 2021. Then St. Louis did not offer him arbitration despite winning the batting title because AI roster construction. And then he went to Washington for a decent year that year. I believe that was actually the year we came back down from 2-0 to the Nationals in the NLDS. And then he went to Boston the next year, barely played for whatever reason, and then he spent the entire 2024 season in free agency, but he did get a World Series ring because he played like 17 games with Boston in 2023. Yu Darvish's career comes to an end as well. He made one start with the Cubs in 2023, and then he spent the whole 2024 season in free agency, and now he's retiring. George Springer, he's also retiring, despite his numbers really never falling off. He was still an extremely good player for the Astros. They just decided not to bring him back for 2024, and he's just retiring after spending a year in free agency. And then also Miguel Cabrera, the best of the bunch who retired. His incredible career finally comes to an end, and of course, he was the only one who made the Hall of Fame. So Madison Bumgarner did not make the Hall of Fame, but Miguel Cabrera does. 3,187 hits, 532 home runs, a career .315 hitter, an incredible career for Miguel Cabrera, and of course he makes the Hall of Fame. Now it's time to move on to the re-sign phase of the offseason, the important guys that we let walk, starting things off with Derek Rodriguez. His time with the Giants has come to an end. He has been our ace since the start of this series, except for obviously this past season where he was the number 2 behind Chris Sale. He is 32 years old, and his ratings keep getting worse every year despite him putting up great numbers, so Derek Rodriguez will be getting let walk, and the next era of Giants pitching now begins. While Dylan Bundy, 3 solid years with the Giants, there was never really any consideration to bring him back though, so he is going into free agency, going to spend his 2025 season somewhere else. Buster Posey, same deal with him. Obviously a legendary Giants player, but his second stint with us will only be 1 year long. Ryan Hacker will be the backup catcher this year, and if I had to guess, Buster Posey probably won't even end up on a team, and he'll be one of these guys that just sits in free agency for the entire season. We also let Robert Gazelman and Alex Claudio walk. They're both solid relievers, but I didn't really have any plans to bring them back. Now, as far as some of the guys who we re-signed, the first one being Chris Sale, obviously still an incredible pitcher despite what happened in Game 1 of the NLDS, just burned the tape on that game. The 2024 NLCS Cy Young winner, the 2023 AL Cy Young winner. He won a plethora of Cy Youngs with the Red Sox in this franchise. He is definitely going to be a Hall of Famer. We gave him a qualifying offer, and he accepted that qualifying offer, so we will be getting another year of Chris Sale in our rotation. We also decided to pick up the team option on Keenan Middleton. He had a team option for a little over $5 million, and I decided that he's a solid reliever, might as well bring him back, so Middleton will be around for another season. We also picked up the team option on Peter Mooney for barely any money at all, really. So the 34-year-old 5'6" hit machine will be back for another season. We will have to see how he fits on the team, on the roster for the 2025 season after the offseason, so we'll get more into that later in the video. We also decided to re-sign Marco Murillo to a 3-year, $4 million per year deal. Obviously, he has more team control than 3 years, but I just decided to only give him 3 years as of right now, so Murillo is back, guaranteed for another 3 seasons. Now, obviously, I don't know how much longer this series is going to go. I'm already past the territory that I've never been into. I've never had a franchise go this long, so I mean, we're just going to keep going until I don't want to play MLB The Show anymore, and I can figure out what I would post if I don't post MLB. But as of right now, I still enjoy playing in this series and posting this series, and I really do enjoy having just all these changes to our roster and just seeing how different our roster is now compared to the early seasons and how different it'll be in 2 seasons from now compared to it is now. We also decided to bring back Connor Panis for 2 years. Pan the Man is back. The man is now a part of the plan for at least 1 more season because the second year is a team option. So we'll see how he performs this season. If he was just like a 1-year wonder, then he won't be back for another season. But if he performs just as well as he did in 2024, in 2025, then he will be back for 2026. JB Bukauskas is an interesting one. Obviously, we got him through waivers because the Astros waived him at the start of last season, and I didn't feel like he's proven that he deserves $7 million per year. He obviously just wants that much because he's an A potential, and he's a mid-80s overall, and the game just decides that's how much a mid-80s overall A potential should be making. So instead, we just offered him arbitration, and we got him back for $1.6 million for another season. If he ends up having an incredible season for us this year, then we'll consider giving him the money he wants next offseason, but we'll obviously deal with that when that time comes. Domingo Acevedo was also brought back for another season. He spent all of 2024 in AAA Sacramento as a long reliever. The plan for him is to make the move full-time to being a reliever. He is a very hard-throwing right-hander who could even be in our big league bullpen this season. He would be a 31-year-old rookie. Obviously, I've shown that I do not care how old the guy is. If you're good and you can produce, I will call you up. And I don't have any quarrels with leaving a guy in the minor leagues throughout his late 20s to get some extra development if he's not quite ready. So Domingo Acevedo, definitely a good situation for him as we have some spots open in the bullpen. We also decided to pick up team options on Yaxel Rios, left-hander Austin Davis, and then depth infielder Edmundo Sosa. And as far as some of the other guys who we let walk, there was Brandon Finnegan. We are finally moving on from him. His ratings are pretty great. It's just he never pitches well in the big leagues, so Brandon Finnegan will be pitching for someone else in the 2025 season. Seth Mejias-Breen, we got one pretty good year from him in the big leagues, but he never really amounted much to anything else for us, and he's 33 years old now, so our minor league first base depth will be getting much younger this year, as we also let walk Braxton Davidson. We acquired him from the Braves for Carlos Gonzalez a few seasons back. He had one really good year where he put up a bunch of home runs and his power rating got a lot better, but he has just been garbage ever since then, so our minor league first base step this year will not only be younger, it'll also be a lot different. We're also moving on from a couple minor league catchers. There's Chase Numata, who was our backup in the big leagues for a bit, but he will be catching somewhere else in 2025, as well as Jin DeJang. He's also being let walk, so like I said, our catcher depth, another thing that's going to be different this season. Amos Clay, we signed him halfway through 2024. I didn't think he was worth bringing back. Sure, he has pretty good contact and power, but his plate skills stink and he can't field at all, and I really don't need someone like that in my organization. We have plenty of AAA bats, so Amos Clay is not being brought back. Bryson Brigman, he's just too old, never going to be anything. He's getting let walk. And then Derek Joy, he's still very young. It's just he was a late-round pick for us one year, and he stinks. He's a decent fielder, but his hitting would take like 10 seasons in the minors in order to even be like major league serviceable. So we're just letting him walk. So now moving on to the free agency portion of the episode. Now, even after getting Sale back for $20 million on that qualifying option, we've still got some money to spend. We are the Giants. We're not a small budget team, but even with that, I don't plan on acquiring too many big names. I mainly just want to restock the minor league depth and then possibly get a second baseman. And obviously right now you're seeing who the top free agents that are available. There's guys like Walker Buehler, Eloy Jimenez, Xander Bogaerts, Fernando Tatis Jr., Franmil Reyes, Luis Urias, Will Myers, basically the entirety of the Padres lineup. So when free agency opened up, we went out and we made a signing right away pretty much. Jairo Munoz. I felt like he was way too perfect of a player to pass up for us. He can play literally anywhere on the field. Second base, third base, shortstop, left field, center field, right field. I'm sure he could play first base if I really wanted him to, even though it doesn't say he could. But I mean, I would never play him at first base. He's an incredible contact hitter, 90 plus contact against both sides. Gets on base a lot. He's got a little pop in his bat as well. And he has just been consistently very, very good for the St. Louis Cardinals over the duration of this franchise. So I offered him a 3-year, $50.9 million deal. The third year is a player option, though, so that's 2 years guaranteed, and then he'll decide if he wants to come back for a third year. And he accepted the offer. So we have a second baseman for our 2025 season, and I fully plan on using him all over the field as well, but that's where he's listed in our lineup as at second base. It's just, if I ever want to get somebody else in at second base, he could easily shift to literally anywhere else. Now you may be asking yourself, how does this signing affect Reynel Delgado? That's a pretty easy answer because Jock Peterson is a free agent after this season. Now obviously Jock Peterson has been a big part of our team, but he's going to be, I believe, like 34 or 35 at the end of this season, so I highly doubt we bring him back, and that means that Gallo could easily just shift to being a right fielder or a center fielder, and then Ramos, depending on where Gallo would play, would be either in right field or center field, and then Ordonez could move to left field, while Delgado would either play second base or third base, depending on where I feel him and Munoz fit better respectively in the infield. But we will obviously deal with that when the time comes. I still plan on having Reynel Delgado be a part of our lineup once he's major league ready. Now, Munoz was actually the only signing we made during that first free agency period. Once the guys who were not offered arbitration became available in free agency, we made a couple more. There was one big one, and that was Colby Allard. We signed Colby Allard to a 3-year, $1.7 million per year deal, and he barely got any time at all with the Atlanta Braves, and he still got rookie status. I mean, he just got like sips of coffee with the Braves over the duration of this franchise. He's just been like a mid-80s guy sitting in AAA for years. So he's a mid-80s overall, A potential. He's still only 27, so he will plug into our rotation very nicely. And then, like I said, we didn't really make too many signings, but there was one that I did want to mention. We made a couple other ones as well, but I don't want to go over those now. We'll go over those in like the minor league update video or just throughout the year if these guys have big years in the minor leagues. But one thing I did want to mention is we signed Gavin Lavallee, I'll look it up. Jersey, you pronounced it wrong. Yeah, it's because I don't feel like going on Baseball Reference at this very second and finding out how you pronounce it. I guarantee you by the next video I'll know exactly how to pronounce it, and I'll know like where the guy went to high school and everything too. So he is going to be a part of our new first base core. He is a big bat, also an exceptional defender on both corners of the infield, first base and third base, and he is extremely durable as well. So definitely expect to see him as a part of our either big league team or AAA team and eventually on the big league team. And now let's take a look at some of the free agents around the league who signed. The St. Louis Cardinals had a couple guys leave and a couple guys brought in as they went out and signed Xander Bogaerts, the shortstop who led the American League in WAR last season, is now a member of the Cardinals, and they also went in and brought out another shortstop in Ahmed Rosario. So they now have two shortstops. Obviously, one of them will either play second or third. Nolan Gorman's their third baseman, so I would assume that like Bogaerts will be short and then Rosario will be second. And they also lost a couple of players. They lost their actual shortstop and Paul DeJong. He's signed with the Los Angeles Dodgers. Why wouldn't they just give the money to Paul DeJong instead of giving the money to even more money to Bogaerts and Rosario? I don't know, that's MLB The Show roster construction, that's just MLB The Show logic in this game. But Paul DeJong is a member of the Los Angeles Dodgers now. Tyler O'Neill, the Cardinals outfielder, is now going to be facing the Cardinals as a member of the Milwaukee Brewers. And then another outfielder they picked up was Franmil Reyes. So the Milwaukee Brewers, they still have Yelich. They signed Jesse Winker last season, and now they've added Tyler O'Neill and Franmil Reyes to that bunch. I genuinely don't know how they're going to play all these guys. One of them might have to be changed positions to first base, maybe Reyes. But there you have it again, just the AI roster construction, not knowing what their roster is going to look like and just going out and signing guys because they're good overalls. But the Padres, they did lose a lot of their players. Obviously, Franmil went to Milwaukee. Fernando Tatis Jr. went to the New York Yankees. The Los Angeles Angels had a pretty big offseason as they picked up Luis Urias and Will Myers from the Padres. Francisco Mejia went to the Oakland Athletics. Dinelson Lamet went to the Washington Nationals. Now, the Padres did spend some money as they brought in reliever Robert Gsellman, our former reliever. They also brought in starting pitcher Yusei Kikuchi from the Mariners as a left-hander. And they went out and added Dodgers ace Walker Buehler. So the rotation is definitely still extremely filthy. It's just they did not add any bats to what they lost, and their bats are definitely the weakest when it comes to their outfield depth. So that could be a good sign for us. We still have a good rotation. We still have our insane lineup. Their lineup got way, way, way worse. And if there's any lineup that can crack their rotation, it's our lineup. And like I mentioned, the Los Angeles Angels did have a very good offseason. They did not just add Luis Urias and Will Myers, they also added Carlos Rodon, left-handed starter. They also added Jesse Biddle as a bullpen arm, and Derek Law. Both of those are very good arms in this game because they're the base roster ratings. They're not the current, as of right now, in real-life ratings. Tim Anderson, the former Angel, is going to the Cleveland Indians. Not a big loss for the Angels because he was never putting up numbers for them, and they replaced him with Luis Urias, who is obviously younger and better. Gleyber Torres is also going to the AL Central as a member of the Minnesota Twins. So the Twins are just assembling a Yankees former super team as they have Gary Sanchez at catcher, their shortstop's now Gleyber, and then they also have Chad Green in their bullpen. Marcus Semien is now going to the Pittsburgh Pirates. Colin Moran is a member of the New York Mets. And then the Boston Red Sox are just stupid. I mean, they're stupid as in, like, how do they afford these guys? The Boston Red Sox have signed Jacob deGrom. So on top of their rotation that is already Luis Castillo, Jose Berrios, Shohei Ohtani, and Sean Manaea, 4 genuine aces, they add on Jacob deGrom on a 1-year mercenary contract, and they already had 90-plus overall Zach Wheeler as their 5th starter, so now 90-plus overall Zach Wheeler is a bullpen arm. Yet another example of AI teams not understanding roster construction, but I mean, hey, it's worked for them because they're in the World Series every year. And they also added Kevin Newman, the shortstop from the Pirates, to their roster, and Phil Matone, another Padre who left the Padres, although he was never really that good, but he's going to the Red Sox to be a part of their bullpen. Although I will say, the Red Sox obviously don't have a great bullpen, and they know that, so they just went out and like, hey, we're never going to use our bullpen because we have 5 starters who are going to give us like 8 innings every day. There was also Shelby Miller, who went to the Tampa Bay Rays. He's actually been quite good throughout the duration of this franchise, so he's now a member of Tampa Bay. Danny Jansen, the catcher, now goes to the Cincinnati Reds. Jake Bowers is signing with the Miami Marlins. They are finally adding a legit bat to their team, while Dylan Bundy, Our former player is going to the Kansas City Royals. They already had a very, very good pitching staff. That's what made them so good. And the Royals now add Dylan Bundy to that staff. And then Derek Rodriguez is going to be pitching with the Philadelphia Phillies for the 2025 season. Speaking of Phillies, or former Phillies, Maikel Franco was actually traded to the Miami Marlins in return for Trevor Richards and Zach Jackson going to the Pittsburgh Pirates. So the Marlins now have some pretty solid bats in their lineup, while Jeff McNeil was actually a free agent. He got signed by the Mets to a multi-year deal, and then they immediately traded him to the Oakland Athletics in return for Daniel Mengden and Nick Gordon. Jeff McNeil hasn't quite been what he is in real life in this franchise, but he's still a very solid player, so now the Oakland Athletics have another extremely solid player to their team. They were first rounded by the Royals this year, so they're hoping that they could not do that this season. And then once the Rule 5 draft came around, I saw that there was an A's AAA reliever available, Mariano Vasquez. He grew up in New Jersey, so I wonder why his parents named him Mariano. He throws extremely hard, he's got a high hit per 9 rating, good rest of his per 9 rating as well, so I'm going to give him a shot. He's a 25, I think it's 25, reliever who's been with the organization over in Oakland, and now he is going to be a member of our team as a Rule 5 draft pick. Generally, you don't see, like, really good teams like us using the Rule 5 draft or utilizing the Rule 5 draft, but I felt like he was a good enough reliever to give a shot, but worst comes to worst, we just release him and send him back to Oakland, and then one of our AAA guys takes over his spot. But, I mean, best comes to best, we've got ourselves another stud reliever. It worked with Tanner Scott. Let's see if we can get another stud one with Mariano Vasquez. And then once spring training came around and the extensions became available, we decided to extend a reliever of ours in Jason Tuttman. He had 3 years of arbitration left, so we bought out those 3 remaining years plus 1 more year. 4-year extension for Jason Tuttman at $3.5 million per year. I feel like that's a pretty good bargain for a guy who's going to be a very, very good reliever, if he's not already a very, very good reliever. And then Braylon Marquez has also been extended for 3 years at $1.4 million per. He's going to be in the bullpen yet again this year, assuming that Bukauskas doesn't get hurt and then lose his spot to somebody. But I feel like Bukauskas getting hurt was just a fluke because his durability is not bad at all. I think it's like high 80s. But still, you never know what can happen. But Braylon Marquez is still a solid long man as well. And then there you have it. The opening day roster is just scrolling by your screen right now. Pretty much who you would expect to make the team made the team, just all the familiar faces. There are a couple surprises though, like Domingo Acevedo is going to be a part of our opening day bullpen. Gavin Lavalley, or Lavalley, however you say his name, is going to be on the opening day roster as well. So if you take a look at our rotation, the 1 to 5, it is Chris Sale, Jay Groom, Marco Murillo, Colby Allard, and JB Bukauskas. Big thing about that rotation, all 5 of those guys are A potential starters. Pretty insane. And then we also have guys in AAA and AA who are just ready to take over spots as well. Guys like Bud Vincent, obviously, Willie Arroyo, or they could possibly be trade pieces. I would say that maybe Arroyo is more of a trade piece than Bud Vincent, because I would actually like to use Bud Vincent in the major leagues, but obviously I'm not going to get too much into that. We will talk about that in later videos. And now taking a look at our bullpen, we have 2 long relievers in Braylon Marquez and Domingo Acevedo. Middle relievers, Mariano Vasquez, Tanner Scott, Keenan Middleton, and Yarlin Garcia. And then the closer is Jason Tuttman. I'm just testing out what the innings pitched distribution is like when there's no setup guy, because I've noticed that the AI just really doesn't use setup guys. Now taking a look at our lineup against right-handed pitching, it's going to be Lorenzo Ordonez leading things off this year in right field, and then Fuentes gets the 2-hole, shortstop Baez, third base Gallo, left field Jock, center field Ramos, second base Munoz in the 7-hole, Bart in the 8-hole, and then the pitcher, and then against lefties, it'll be Ordonez leading off, then Munoz hitting second, Baez short, Gallo fourth, Ramos center, Gavin Lavalley is the first baseman, followed by Connor Panis playing left field, and Joey Bart is the catcher. So our bench is pretty much Derek Kloboff is the 4th outfielder. Panis will obviously still get his at-bats against lefties, except instead of at first base, it's in left field. He will obviously still get time as an outfielder / first baseman against right-handed pitching as well, also as a pinch hitter. And then Peter Mooney is now the backup infielder, while Ryan Hacker, the rookie, is the backup catcher, and he can also play some corner infield. As far as the new guys on our team, what their numbers will be, there's Colby Allard, will be wearing number 37. Jairo Munoz will be wearing number 2. He wore 34 with the St. Louis Cardinals, and why am I giving him number 2? He has no connections to that number, because I feel like number 2 is a cool number, and I would like to have a player on our team wear number 2, so we're giving him number 2. Mariano Vasquez wearing number 33. Domingo Acevedo is wearing 62. Ryan Hacker is 35, and then Gavin Lavallee is 22. I'm just getting out in front of the Will Clark comments. I'm sure somebody is going to be like, Jersey, they're retiring Will Clark's number in real life. You can't get... That's a different reality, man. Different reality. We're already about to be in 2025. Ryan Schimpf wore 22 for us for multiple seasons. Sure, if I started this franchise in MLB 20, I wouldn't have given him 22, but I'm not. This is a different reality. Deal with it. I also highly doubt anybody who watches my videos is even old enough to remember Will Clark, so there's also that. But that's going to wrap things up here for this edition of the San Francisco Giants franchise, the off-season edition. The next episode you will see will be opening day against the Colorado Rockies in Colorado. Chris Sale taking on Kyle Freeland in a battle of lefties. There will also be 2 other games, which I do not know what those games will be, because I still need to play all 3 of them. So I've been your host, Jersey Born, and I am saying, go watch Kyle Seager's 3rd home run from last night. That's all.